there's so many different stats that you can look. You know, we look at obviously the map stats, and it is important. We should take that flavour from it. But I could hit you with another one. Shopify Rebellion, unbeaten against EU opposition. They've beaten Team Secret. They've beaten G2. They've only played twice. Of course, it's not a huge sample size, not a huge number, but they have done well against EU opposition.
To struggle when it comes to these finals, they can't quite make it over that final hurdle. But maybe, Tim, just maybe, things are a little different here on home soil.
I can tell you something else interesting as well. Actually, you know, talking about home
the fact machine today.
Talking about home soil. No, this isn't so much a fact. This is well, it is a fact because it did happen. But talking about home soil, talking about being back in Germany. I saw Spoit this morning at breakfast, and he said good morning, and we were chatting, and he said, I said, oh, I'm casting your game today, and he said, you cast a few of my games last time I was in Germany as well, and it's just. Yeah, obviously he went on and won it with Rogue, and it's like, it's just an interesting little thing, you know, that's in his mind. He knows that he's done well here before, and, you know, all these things play into it.
It's obviously the start of the campaign for both teams. Falcons, can they overcome their demons? Spoit, can he have a repeat on home soil of what he saw last time he was here and bring his NA friends along with him? Well, we're about to find out, Tim, as we are into our operator bans. First to be taken away with Falcons on the defense. We're going to see them taking away Ace from the other side, a very common ban these days, and Kaid, no surprise at all.
Yeah, I think, you know, nothing too wild there, no curveballs to kick things off. We'll have our second bans coming through as well. Wouldn't surprise me to see Bandit go along with Kaid and attacker wide. Oh no, we've gone for a Mirror and Hibana. Again, makes sense. Hibana, you're going to keep those hatches safe, particularly for your basement defences. Less impactful, I think, up on that top floor. You've still got Thermite available. You've still got Maverick. You should be able to get the breaching done that you need to do. But I would also argue sometimes Hibana, for that IT wall, can just be a little bit safer. Keep that range. You don't have to go near that electrical window. You can kind of do it a little bit more distance.
Also, the key thing to think about with these bans, Tim, is the fact that the only hard breachers left are ones that have to get nice and snug against that wall, which is inviting a C4 from Breedy. It's going to be an absolute demon with those C4s historically. And so if you're inviting the opponents in to come and get close, whether it's Thermite, whether it's Maverick, whether it's the hard breach charges, either way, you're setting yourself up for a world of hurt. We've got Surf jumping on towards the Maverick here, of course, trying to overcome the Bandit. But as mentioned, that does invite some cheeky C4, so we'll see just how good Shopify are at overcoming that first hurdle before we even start thinking about the site itself.
I was wondering if we were going to see the clash up on the top floor. We've seen it used quite a lot to hold connector. So the reason that I mentioned that is the absence of it, because I'm now wondering, right, how are you dealing with connector, Falcons? What are you going to do there? You know, Canadian had brought along the Capitao anyway, so that would have been reasonably easily dealt with, but they've got to think about that area. They've got to think about how they control it. As it is, Breedy is going to start out there in the Bandit, so he's going to be looking to Bandit trick that wall and just prevent that external access coming in, that pressure, that angle that can be found through to electrical. There's going to be a little battle goes on there, and that really could determine the outcome of this round, because a lot of the attention, I think, from Shopify is initially going to be towards that side.
Yeah, for now, of course, it's focusing on getting this wall opened up. Of course, you can see it is electrified away. The classic spot.
Come on, sir.
With the C4 there we go. Has got it done, but almost loses life in the process. Down to 40 HP. Right idea from Leaky Fat, but has done the hard part, Tim. The wall is now soft. It's now opened up. They can find their way in towards IT, and that's all done inside 60 seconds.
We always judge a Maverick on their ability to... Oh, he's going for 2 in a row here, Des. He's just showboating at this point.
Well, where's Breedy? Because Breedy's the one now with the C4 remaining in the back pocket. Does he try and finish off the damage that was done to Surf earlier on? It looks like they aren't even going to bother here to step it away and get this wall opened up. Once the reinforcement falls away with this bottom top removal, look who's there. It's a Buck. Ambi ready to get it fully opened up. And here in rapid time, 75 seconds, both walls have opened up. And now, as I mentioned, that first hurdle is overcome. They can start focusing on what's happening in the site itself.
A Maverick masterclass coming in from Surf. I know it seems like a simple thing. You know, we talk about it all the time. How are they going to do with that Maverick trick? But if you're going to bring the operator, you've got to be able to do it quickly and concisely, just like he's done there. And it's not always that we see that happening. I like this pressure up onto Catwalk as well. Using Canadian, using that Capitao utility to create the space. They recognise the real danger position is the Azami on that Catwalk. They can just dictate the entire round, but Solotov has been forced back away. They've taken the ground, but they are going to lose the first body as Leakerfact takes down Ambi.
It's been so formulaic so far, Tim. The cover coming in from the Catwalk doorway, for example. They know they've got IT control. No one can swing out onto them when there's Capitao far Multiplier in front of the rotate itself, which has let them get up, get the wall opened up a little bit further in towards site now. And we can see on our top-down, you guys can see it, of course, through the outlines across your screen. All of these Falcons players have been pushed further back. They're all stuck towards this north side like a line in a sense, which means they acknowledge they have lost control of what's going on here, in towards Garage, in towards IT. But we're down to the last 30 seconds, Tim. We're starting to run out of that time when you can make mistakes as Shopify.
The real problem for Shopify is that they've given up Garage at this point. They've dipped away and they've now moved over to the connector side, trying to push through electrical. It's not necessarily a bad idea, but what it means is all their eggs are in this basket. They've got to go and find kills, and they're not doing it. And it's difficult because they haven't softened up this side of the map at the beginning of the game. This isn't where the utility has been spent. Spoit manages to get one, but it's likely a consolation as he gets a second, surely taken down in a matter of seconds. There it is. Users picks him up, and a little bit of indecision, I think, for Shopify there. Well, they came in at 45 seconds, have said, we've got to back out of this. We've got to back out and go elsewhere. And like I say, that foundation hadn't been laid for an attack from that side.
In a way, like, I actually think that was a really beautiful round of Siege. Like, the way that Shopify have approached it was absolutely excellent. You know, both walls made soft inside 75 seconds or so. Hey, what's going on?
Yeah. We do like classic strat. I'm going to put music trap on top of
And turns out we can, so we'll be listening in towards that round ends in future. But for me, nothing else. Again, I think the way they approached it was great. Both walls open inside 75 seconds. A really good 3 or 4 man set piece push to get full control of Catwalk. Just the one they missed out on was what they opened up early on, which was actually in towards jungle, in towards connector. They left it in those last 30 seconds to a point where if you lose a player, you can't easily get someone to step back over their tombstone and carry on the push from that direction. So in a way, sort of gave themselves a little bit too much to do. Would a backstab from Aqua would have been easier because they had control of that very early in the round as well. So I like what they've done with the approach, but Falcons, they didn't really look bothered, Tim. You know, you love your comparison of how bothered were the defenders? Not very bothered. They may have been made to move around a little bit, but they didn't lose a player until Spoit got his 2K in the very, very end of the round. They played things brilliantly there, sat back and given Shopify what they needed, but refused to give up control of the site itself. Really good first round. Let's see how the second builds up.
Yeah, Catwalk just didn't really pay off for them, did it? And they did such a good job of taking it as well. Spoit and Canadian going in there, great use of utility to clear the manpower and take that ground, but ultimately it didn't work out. But hey, let's remember, it's Falcons' first choice site. We'd expect them to be coming away with a win there. This time, they are going to move down to basement. I'm just having a look at their positioning around the map. There is only one on site at the minute. This is a heavy roam from Falcons. They've got Leakerfact up on top floor, and we've seen in EML there's, you know, obviously we've got that international audience in now. You might have NAL fans, might be SL, you might not have seen all of EML, but Leakerfact was a nightmare this stage when he was getting away from site. I'm thinking Clubhouse top floor. I'm thinking Nighthaven top floor. He has been a nightmare, and so that's something Shopify need to make sure they close down. He's in servers at the minute, and if they don't deal with him, they will be in trouble.
It's more the fact that it's Mute and Mozzie on side that's going to make this a bit of a headache, I think. Shopify can't rely on the drones, and I guess you can't always rely on the count in the top right corner of your screen, but a lot of those drones are gone is my main point of concern. They've got to still figure out their way through against both the anti-intel, but also their own intel that Falcons have brought along. And this is Shaka from downstairs. Tim on site has got a couple of kills upstairs. Well, a kill upstairs, sorry, up through a couple of floors is what I meant to say. Beautiful stuff. And now again, Shopify get that halfway point where it's like, okay, there's no one we can really close down on here. They've already dropped away. They're dropping us, they're blocking us out from using the intel that we've got. It's got to be so frustrating to try and play into.
It's okay. Shaco's in basement. He's not a danger at the minute. We're on the top floor. He still manages to find himself the entry. 5 versus 4. And just looking, there's still a good presence. There's still users and Leakerfact on this mid floor that are going to be looking to take fights. I said this, that it'd be a nightmare, that they had to have a plan. They haven't got the shield up in his face quickly enough. And yes, they get the kill, but the damage is done. They've now lost both the Dokkaebi and the Ram. That is a huge loss of utility for Shopify. With 55 seconds left to go, they may well struggle to now break down site.
It's again, Tim, without the ability to know what's happening around the map, who is where, they're just going to get tripped up by things like this. So 4v3, Falcons very happy to sit back on site here and play the waiting game. It's really about Shopify to figure out a way through. The shield drops on through, watching out towards Exo at the same time, but their eyes are on Tank. Canadian is the one who's got to make some magic happen here. In one steps, and sure enough, Spoit once again is playing the hero for his team. It's a couple of kills in the last round led to nothing, but here could be the difference. Plant is going down, flashes up over the top as Canadian's getting that diffuser down, but no, the Titan himself has been slain. It's a 2 versus 2 though. Surf and Canadian to hold on.
Use a Solotov on the hunt now. Need to find this first kill. The difficulty that they've got is they are up against the shield as well. Canadian with a beauty, not only getting the diffuser down, but picking up the first kill. Uses the flash. He's just going to continue this fight. Closes it out, and that is a good response from Shopify.
Well, that's on social media in 5 minutes' time. A 3K on the blitz as well, Tim. I was worried. They were in the 4v3. No information about what was happening on site. But once Spoit and Canadian, of all players, have stepped down there, they've made something happen, and have got ourselves evened up at 1 apiece. Now the game can really get started.
Yeah, I love this start. We've had a great round from FALCONS. We've had a great round from Shopify. You know, they've both...
I think they're about to play against him.
I think somebody might be starting on B Street.
Is that SSG? That's got to be SSG.
Yeah, well, great round. Great round from both of these teams to get themselves to 1-1 on the scoreboard. FALCONS are going to move along, and they're going to take us to storage this time for the site. So what worked well for Shopify then, they actually struggled a little bit, I thought, with that roam clear. Lost a couple of players, but their response was brilliant. They were 3 versus 5, managed to close down Leak. In fact, used the utility they had available. Canadian on that shield, you know, that experience, recognizing he needed to close that distance quickly, and did so. Got that kill, and that facilitated them. 3 versus 4, they can start getting aggressive towards site. It was one of those where they kind of just had to brute force it a little bit. They just had to go in there and win some gunfights. And if you're sending Spoit in, asking him to win gunfights, there's not many players better in the world that you could do that with. So it worked out. Shopify get it done. 5-5.
Device position.
Still in this round.
And really, it's the 2 players that you can see they've only got kills you've seen so far in Spoit and Canadian. Yeah, we're only 2 rounds in, but I don't want to take it away from Spoit. I know Canadian was the hero of that moment with a 3K to make sure the round was closed out, but across those 2 rounds, yes, 2 meaningless kills at the end of the first round for Spoit, but still showed that it was pretty hot and on it. And in the entry, once they actually got in towards site itself in this 3 versus 4, the fact that he picks up 2 kills before he goes down, leaves Canadian Surf in that 2 versus 2, that is more than winnable when one of your remaining 2 operators is that blitz. So again, I'll put a lot of that down to Spoit and the work that he's doing so far. He does not fancy letting a bunch of EU players spoil his parade here at the start of the competition.
Breeder just a little bit quick.
I think he thought the bottom was open.
I think he did. Just a little bit quick on the trigger there. He was just trying to judge as that reinforcement was going to drop away. Surf did there you go. I was going to say he did a fantastic job in the first round and continues to do so. Great use of that gadget. Going to send in the ram, not only to open the wall, but to open the vertical above that possible plant site. There are other options as well, but we do commonly see the plant inside of B site window, just on the pillar, but you do have to control IT, which they now do. And you've got to get that ability underneath as well to control that area downstairs to make sure there's no verticals coming from there.
Well, bearing in mind, and this is, of course, their push on the top floor itself. And think about it, around this time, they had almost like full control of the south side of top floor. They don't yet have that, but we're not attacking upstairs. We're attacking on the downstairs, and they crucially need to get top floor cleared out. But 2-3 kills fly through for FALCONS. They hold the top floor, at least for now. Ambient and Rexon trying to show what they can do here. Both of the kill in the round so far have got 3 players to chew through on the FALCONS side. But the most important part, Tim, is they've got that top floor. But at what cost?
The cost is the important thing. Yes, you've gone in and removed Shako, but you've lost 2 players along the way, including your blitz. Not going to be easy from here. Shopify in a position where, once again, they're going to have to brute force this. At some point, they are going to have to push in towards site and look to get kills, because FALCONS right now are going to give them nothing. They are just going to hold their positions inside of site. They're going to hold those angles and just wait for the push to come. There's not going to be much more verticality opened up. There's not much more that Shopify can gain here. They've just got to be hopeful that somebody peeks a head out and gives them something.
Which they are simply not going to do is a problem, Tim. Like, yeah, cool, you've got the garage control, you've got above the B-site window, as you mentioned earlier on, but Solotov doesn't care, still swings out on towards Catwalk, gets rid of 1. And Ambi might be the hero for many over in America, but I don't quite think he's going to be the hero in this round. Leakyfat shutting him down. A dominant round, much like round 1, coming out from FALCONS.
I think, honestly, so far, pretty much as we would expect. You know, we're a quarter of the way into things. FALCONS are 2-1 up. They've started on defense, which we would expect them to do well on here on Nighthaven. So I think everybody is probably reasonably happy at this point in time. Sure, Shopify would love to be ahead, but they are certainly not going to be dismayed at just being 1 round down. So we continue in. We're going to have another couple of bans coming through. 1 attacker, 1 defender will go by the wayside, and they will be Thermite and Bandit. So we have now got a full hard breach ban. There is only Maverick left that is able to do that, and of course his utility, his gadget is somewhat different to the 3 that we've seen banned away.
I don't think we'll be too bothered by that. They've seen them playing, of course, Surf playing Maverick every single round so far. It's just a guarantee that he's locked into playing that. They must have expected the Bandit would come through. It's why they've ran it across those 3 rounds, to be a bit of a nuisance, to force Shopify to have to try and bring that Maverick along. Now things will change up at least a little bit. Not enough that it's going to completely transform the game, but enough that you're going to see some different defensive strats coming out of Falcons now that the Bandit isn't on side. And here, Tim, looking at it, we've got users running around on the Clash. We've got Leakyfat moving over towards the Pulse. Actually quite a bit of a change up here, so it's going to invite Shopify to have to think a bit differently about pushing their way through. And what I'm looking at in this round, Tim, not bothering with the Maverick at all. They're just going to try and steamroll their way through using hard breach gadgets instead, but most importantly is going to be that shield Canadian on the Monty.
The real problem that Shopify are facing at the minute is, you know, whilst this isn't a bad start, they've got 1 round. If we look at the defensive win rate of Falcons on that Avon Labs over the last 6 months, 21 defensive rounds. They've won 17 of them. They've got an 81% defensive win rate here. They are, you know, phenomenal when it comes to defending this map. So Shopify getting 1 round out of 3, absolutely perfect. If anything, they're ahead of the curve there. But the big problem comes when you look towards that second half. Shopify get on defense, only a 50% win rate on Night Avon Labs. And that's across 38 rounds. That's even more history that we've got on them. So that's not going to be enough for them. 50-50 won't be enough to get this done if it's a 4-2 half. They've got to better that.
All right, well, I said there's hard breach gadgets being brought along and used to good effect. Got ourselves IT opened up even quicker than when the Maverick was on side here. Tim, of course, no ability for a Bandit to deny it away. Means you can move that a little bit quicker. But they've still got to worry about clearing out everything across this top floor. It's about the speed, like we were speaking about. That's what we've got to see them move on pretty quick here. But the comp does run a little bit slower when you've got a Monty up front. And you're also being impeded, let's not forget, by the Clash that I spoke about earlier on. So keep an eye on users right now dancing around Connector. Of course, able to feed a lot of information over to the rest of the team when players start pushing on through, whether he sees or hears them. It's kind of beside the point. It's the fact that he gets that knowledge at all is what's really going to help his team get set up and ready and prepared for wherever Shopify choose to push from.
I think there is going to be some attention towards the garage and the catwalk. Again, Ambi has moved in there off screen, and Shopify last time, you know, dedicated utility to getting that control. They got it, and then it didn't really pay off for them. It didn't really give them too much. As it stands, Ambi's going to be actually moving around underneath a little bit. I don't know if he's going to look to challenge the bottom of blue stairs, possibly. Canadian has pushed forward onto catwalk, is going to get that hard breach at some point. I think he's just being stopped by the mute jammer at the minute, but the big question is, what are Shopify going to do with that control? Because last time, they couldn't get it done.
And they're kind of relying on Spoit there to help them get one opened up, and sure enough, it has been done.
Beautiful.
C4 goes for the second, and Leakyfat trying to bite off a little bit more than he can chew. Spoit equalising things out. So not the end of the world, and of course, that pulse, the info that it brings is now offline. That should give Shopify a little bit more breathing room, Tim, but we are coming in to the last 45 seconds, and if we remember, the last 30 is where things start to go horribly wrong, and sure enough, a couple of kills go their way before Solitov is shut down.
And they've got a Clash to play against. 30 seconds left to go. 2 versus 3. This is an awfully big ask. And that is an important kill as Surf steps in. Almost kind of removes the problem. But the problem was sat in the middle of a trap. The trap was sprung, and the Falcons are able to get themselves the round again. Confidence there. A little rush of blood, I think, for Leakyfat in the middle. He gets the nitro. He's thinking, I'm going to have some more. I'm going to clear catwalk. No, you're not. But ultimately, yeah, another very solid round. I come back to that. You know, were the defenders on side bothered? No, they weren't really. They weren't pressured.
The fact they were always a step or two ahead, like that play at the end, like expecting the challenge to coming on towards the Clash, because realistically it was the only way they could deal with the Clash was having someone go in and try and go for the fight. In fact, twice they try and do it, because Spoit tries to win the 1v1 neutrally the first time and loses out. The second time we've got a player going in his Surf, and he's then traded from range on Pillar as well, so there is always another layer to that Falcons defense. They just had a perfect read on Shopify, growing in confidence as the game goes on. Again, I think Shopify have got the right ideas here, Tim. They're not struggling in the early round. Dare I say, they're looking pretty good at the PvE part of the game, but the PvP, not looking so hot.
No prizes for the PvE, Des. That's the big problem.
Not playing farming sim, are they? I know you are.
Well,
it's on Game Pass, we can talk about it, it's okay.
That canola's not going to grow itself, Des.
And neither is your progress through this tournament unless we get a few more rounds on the board, boys. Let's see our round 5 builds out. Again, similar sort of setup, but most importantly, Tim, because we've got to talk about it. What was League playing an awful lot of before there was a slight buff or change?
Loading new magazine.
That's what he's on now, Tim.
Yeah, a little bit of Solus.
Yeah. What's he playing in this round, Tim?
A little bit of Solus.
Exactly. So with buffs coming on through, it'll be even more. Because I can guarantee there are a couple of like Solus players around the board that were licking their lips at the prospect of seeing a Solus buff come on through, and that's exactly what we've got. Pair it up with the Valkyrie and the frustration of the clash. This is actually going to be a really annoying comp to try and get through, I think. And Shopify have done okay, like I say, in getting themselves set up for executes, but it's from there onwards where things start to fall on down. Now you've got to worry about him and probably Shaiko dancing off around the map, causing absolute headaches for you.
I've just been having a look at the entry stats so far as well, Des. And out of 4 rounds, FALCONS have got 4 entries. And that's,
wow.
I know, that's a big problem for Shopify right now because they're effectively playing a large portion of this match. 4 versus 5 is the reality in round to round. So I'd like to see them this round focus on that. Get somebody closed out, use your intel, make sure you put them in a lose-lose situation and get that opener. As if on cue, Ambi picks up Brede. Great start for Shopify. Can they now manage to cement that? Solotov is there for one of his own onto Spoit to level things up.
I was wondering where he's going to go for a second then, Solotov. Instead, doubles back to join out his teammate. It's actually Leakafak, of course, out on the road inside a kitchen where he's previously been seen on the Mozzie. But still trying to do much of the same, waste time, feed information, all that kind of good stuff. A call coming on through from Ambi here. It's the last one of the round as well, it's worth mentioning. So really trying to contribute or focus that utility on getting the map cleared. Less about the execute itself and more on making sure they actually are in a spot to execute. So I can't blame them for it. We often see FALCONS do exactly the same thing, but it does mean there are no calls available for the execute itself.
Okay then, here comes the shield. Canadian just pushing Shopify Rebellion forward, looking to get them into that site as we saw previously from him. With that shield just creating a little bit of space. Ambi manages to get Leaker back. He's going to be traded out. Something again that FALCONS have done well so far, has been able to get that trade. Keep themselves ahead in terms of numbers. Wrexham finds an answer. 2 versus 2 with 35 seconds left to go.
Oh, they've got, again, it is 2 versus 2 team with the shield on side. We've seen that work out so well for them so far. Canadian being the one right now that is soaking all the attention, and Shaiko and Solotov have got to be worrying. Where is he? What's going on? Well, now they note him. Wins out towards the 1. Can't quite win the 2nd, but there we go. Up he steps big. It's Canadian to get the kill that he needs to see another round over the line for Shopify Rebellion.
Yeah, absolutely needed that as well. Like I say, when you're moving into that second half, for me, Shopify Rebellion need to make sure that they've got at least a 3-3 here. Really important round coming up for them. Historically, only got a 50% win rate on this map, and it could be problematic for them going into that second half to try and get the rounds that they need against FALCONS. They're going to continue on the attack, and FALCONS likely, I think, will take us to their final site of choice again, which last time around was storage.
For sure, it's been that dance back and forth across these sites, right? The top floor has been pretty comfortable for FALCONS, whether they're actively holding it or whether it's just temporarily looking to hold it before falling back down. They've looked pretty comfortable. It's been the downstairs where Shopify found that success, but as we've said a couple of times or a couple of rounds is all you really need in this half to give yourself a bit of padding going into the second to show what you can do. Onwards we go then. Let's see how the last round of this half goes. If Shopify can get a 3-3 split here, that's going to feel wonderful for them. FALCONS, I think, will feel a little bit downbeat about that because the rounds where they've won, they've looked very comfortable and very in control. As I say, mainly focused around the top floor. It's elsewhere where things have looked a little bit more difficult. But no shield in this round. Canadian is over onto the Twitch.
Okay, we're going to have the Twitch just roaming through site very quick. This is great progress from Canadian, actually. Going straight in there, 20 seconds into the round, and taking out those Goyo canisters is a real big one for them. So that really does create a little bit of space, particularly at the end of the round. It's that kind of work that you look at when you've got 30 seconds left to go, and it can be the difference between winning or losing the round. It's kind of like a slow payoff, really, but great work being done by the RGL of Shopify Rebellion to kick things off for them and clear out that utility.
Again, it's the part that I think they're good at, the PvE. They're very, very good and very, very timely at getting themselves set up in the early parts of the round. And dealing with reinforced walls, electrified walls, great use of utility overall. It's more been the later stages where we've seen them struggle a couple of times. But I am somewhat emboldened by what we've seen. Admittedly, their successes have come from shield play, which is why I thought it worth noting earlier on that Canadian has dropped away from playing shields in this round and is instead on the Twitch. If they can get this round over the line, again, brilliant stuff for them. It shows they aren't crutching back onto the shields that many teams would look at and say, well, when you're struggling, you play a shield. And they would kind of be feeding in towards that a little bit. We'll see how it goes. For now, they've also got to worry about users dancing around on that clash. Wasn't much of an issue for them in the prior round or the prior couple of rounds. Here could well be.
Ambi so far had a good couple of rounds. If you look across Shopify Rebellion, everybody is very kind of even in kills, really. There's nobody that's, you know, having a real standout at the minute. Spoit manages to get an entry. Another important one. Look at this. Canadian gets a kill, which creates him the space to put the diffuser down. Falcons seem to have no idea. There's nothing they can do to challenge it. They managed to get around and get the kill to level it up 3v3, but it's going to be difficult. This is one of the hardest post plants, I think, once that diffuser is down to be able to fight back onto. You've got them above. You can have them below, outside of the window, just everywhere. They're coming out of the walls.
What I love about this attack team is they've kept it so simple. Get IT control, don't let anyone challenge us, clear out site itself in the window, plant goes down, no other questions to ask, Your Honor. It's absolutely incredible stuff versus previous rounds where they've looked for large parts of control of the map. Keeping it simple, stupid sometimes is the exact way to do it, and Solosov might get himself a bit of a consolation kill, but I'm afraid not a whole lot else as we get in towards the last 5 seconds. This one's done, and Shopify will get that 3-3 split they're looking for, and now we get to move on to their defense and see what they can do.
Just for us, because they lurk in garage, guys, and no one was holding garage.
I could not, I got fire, Grim, like
I didn't know.
I said I can't, I'm Grim.
Then we got fed because one was games, 2 was stock window, and 1 was bottom garage pushing, so we couldn't do anything.
Well, you can see that the air quotes rush worked from the way they've been describing it and saying, oh, well, I got hit by this and I couldn't do anything about it. They were just overwhelmed by Shopify. Really good way to switch up the tempo of the rest of that half, I think, and catch them by surprise. But let's talk about the bans coming into this second half. Kaid is followed first and foremost, and then, of course, the Thermite straight after. And Capital to follow as the next ban, which I love because we saw a couple of rounds where that was used by Shopify in the first half. It is a good way of stopping players cutting things out with either the smokes or the fires as well. So looking to restrict that capability on the side of Falcons, but it does invite a Deimos Dockerby pairing, which we see them running an awful lot.
Just looking though, and you know, I said Shopify Rebellion needed to get that 3-3 half. Looking at the historic stats, they've only got a 50% defensive win rate on Nighthaven Labs. That now at least kind of gets them to overtime if they can repeat that. But there's a real opportunity for them to actually take this and win, because now I feel like Falcons go on to the back foot. If we look at them historically, attacker win rate, 37% for them on Nighthaven Labs. They are nowhere near as good on the attack. Their wins on Nighthaven tend to come from those big defensive performances. They struggle on this side of the coin. So Shopify Rebellion, they can dig themselves in, I think, for these first 2 rounds. Get your first 2 sites locked down. They take a massive step towards getting this first win against Falcons in the Swiss stage.
You speak about Falcons and their attacking, you know, prowess. We look in our region as our 2 best attacking teams are Secret and G2, and for a period of time throughout stage 2, both of those 2 teams had a better attacking round win rate than they did defensive. Now, that could either say their defense is frankly awful and their attacks are actually okay and mediocre, or their attacks are brilliant, and it tends to be more towards the latter. They've got a lot of pace of them. What I think can sting Falcons sometimes is they are quite slow on the attack. They can be quite formulaic, and they have been working on it over the last year to inject a little bit of unpredictability into their game plan. But I just worry that while they might be great at executing, very much the inverse of Shopify in a way, they can struggle in the early round when they're getting tripped up by other teams.
Big damage coming into Sharko on the Nomad to kick things off there. So again, another better start on the entry. I picked up on that. It was somewhere that Falcons were dominating things, but over the last couple of rounds, they've started to struggle. They haven't got those first kills. They've taken that early damage. Canadian has a little bit of chip damage on the clash, but that's not going to worry him too much. Should be absolutely fine. We've seen this so many, out of all of the breaching tricks, this is the one that often fails. I think even more so than the Maverick. Impact nade goes out unsuccessfully, and the wall has been opened. Well played from the attackers of Falcons.
Oh, if Canadian had got that as well, it would have just been another 10-15 seconds to shave off the clock, because we were speaking earlier about how fast Shopify in round 1 managed to get both walls opened up inside a connector and, of course, the IT one. They did it inside 75 seconds. It's taken Falcons that long to just get IT itself itself opened up, and there's nothing like a bandit on the other side. They've been kind of very, very carefully and very, very tepidly stepping through the map, trying to put that vertical pressure from below onto Canadian to force them away, but have ignored that after about 5 seconds of trying and backed off entirely. And this is what I mean. Falcons are a little bit slower, a bit more composed about the way they like to attack, and that gives Shopify a lot of opportunity to try and trip them up, and they've come close twice so far.
Just going to be looking to work up that hatch, see if he can get himself. It's always an interesting. Sometimes you'll just catch that bit of movement inside a site and be able to pick up a cheap kill. It's not an angle that people ever presume is going to be a thing getting hit from underneath on the hatch. They don't get any joy with it this time, but Falcons still, I think, struggling to get as much ground as they need here. They're being held at bay. This is a really nice defense from Shopify Rebellions. They still have control of IT. They still are making it difficult for Falcons to remain present inside of Connector, inside of Electrical. They're being challenged. They're being hit underneath. Great stuff. Opening kill. Wrexham picks up Leakerpack.
All right, then how much more can move forward from here? Because as said, Tim, they're just wasting a hell of a lot of time here. They can even afford to drop the hatch, step back. No C4s left to work with, but the time is ticking down here. They've still got a clash to worry about as well. The Rebellion have just got them locked out. It feels like, Tim, they know everything that's going on here. Here comes Wrexham, in for a couple, Surf for another. Looking absolutely beautiful. Just one left, and Ambi, well, he'll definitely save an embarrassing shotgun challenge at the end of the round from one of his teammates, but the Rebellion get themselves on the board in a very convincing first defense. And this is where I start to worry a bit for Falcons, Tim. Like, all right, let's wait till we see the offsides. That'll really start to give us a shape of this game, but that wasn't a very convincing first attack.
I honestly, I think Shopify Rebellion have done the hard yards, Des. That first half was where that was the make or break. You know, like I said, Falcons 80% defensive win rate. They just dominate teams on defense of this map, and that's how they win so many matches here. But getting through and fighting for that 3-3 half was absolutely massive. So picking up round 6 has really given them some momentum, and I'm pretty sure that Shopify Rebellion know that. They know if they get into that second half even, they can start locking things down on the defense. And like I said, round 7, round 8 were going to be particularly important for them. They've won round 7, they now move on to round 8. If they get themselves basement locked down and just on the board, they take a massive step towards getting this win.
Yes. I mean, again, I'll wait until I've seen the offsides, because things like this downstairs is where things can mix up a little bit here. And, okay, we don't normally talk about hovers. I'm going to do it, Tim, and pray things don't change. The way that we've often seen Falcons... Okay, never mind. Forget about it. I was going to say the way I've often seen Falcons overcome their slowness in an early round is through going for a Dokkaebi and Deimos pairing. Like, it's their wheelhouse, right? Teams know to expect that. You have to ban away one of the two, otherwise they'll run you over with them either way. Here, they've completely moved away from that, but I've got a different kind of speed. We've got the Lion inside, but Brede on the Blitz is the #1 to look at here, and then uses that final kind of like protect the president package they want to deliver at the very end with those Candelas raining on through and looking to overwhelm Shopify in the execute. But keep your eye on the early round, because that is where things could go wrong yet again.
Straight away, look at this, the speed that Leakerpack is moving into sight with, but it is gonna be for nothing. He comes unstuck as he moves in. Spoit gets a beautiful 2-level kill, proving Shaiko is not the only one. From Catwalk all the way down, Spoit manages to find another onto Solotov. Shaiko picks one up to level it up, 3 versus 3, but Brede has been taken down. He's been closed out by Surf as he was being picked up. Shaiko takes a ton of damage as well. The wheels look like they have truly come off for Falcons on Labs.
It wouldn't have been so bad if they managed to get a save on towards Brede. They then had control of the sights in, but they've done the classic thing we see some teams try and do, and they can't, but they don't want to play into like a full map roam. They'll hit the site hard and say, right, forget about the vertical, we'll rely on smokes, we'll rely on utility, we'll find our way through. The problem is, those Candelas came on through and the players upstairs completely unbothered by them. Only one smoke came out and got used. Brede went down as well. That just ground this whole thing to a halt. Otherwise, he could have got a plant down somewhere, safe and cover from above, and tried to walk away with the round end. Instead, uses left in a 1 versus 3. Shopify will probably find themselves going up here to 5 and 3 unless users can pull out something special.
He cannot. Surf manages to pick up an easy shotgun kill from above. And again, we're starting to see, you know, Solotov, like you said, not Solotov, Solis has had, Solotov's had plenty of buffs. So, you know, with the way you see him play, but it's Solis that's had the buff there, that's just brought her really back into things.
And the game is like, they're bold, you know? They're doing exactly the same thing we saw on the prep. And for me, we don't even have to play fast, you know? You just need mid-round problem solving, you know? Like the first round, Chaiko has Nomad, he could even dash the guy on IT. We are just like, everyone's focused on themselves, we're not focused on making sim plays, you know?
Yeah.
So focus on this, like for real, on this map. Like, next step, guys, okay, Clash on the deck, how are we gonna clear him? Okay, let's clear him, boom. Next step, okay, we have to clear pillar, you know? We are just like talking, oh, one guy here, one guy there, one guy here, so we are not playing together, you know?
Yeah.
So just focus on this, don't even play fast as fuck, you know? Just like the prep, you know, just towards stuff, they give us like a lot of ground as well, no?
Yeah, space. Feel free, guys. Just don't be tilted and just focus on the next round.
So the last round was good. It was service free.
Yeah.
Oh, should be service free, but
It's unlucky, guys.
I got extra one. The only kiss was.
I'll give a shout out to Parker for this actually as well. On the 6on6 podcast recently, they had a chat about this. In fact, there was, I think, 7 of them in total on camera. It was a lot of people on there, but it was really interesting because they had to talk about different kinds of coaches. And, you know, some of the players were offering up their thoughts on, you know, here's the kind of coach that I like, here's what I think a good coach should be able to do. Is someone a vibes coach? They're more involved on the tactics side? Is their strength behind the scenes and bringing together prep and analysis and counter strategy and all that kind of good stuff? What I think you've just seen there from Julio coming out is a little bit of action. Right, here's where the problem's going wrong, guys. It's communication. And it's not the first time we've heard this be an issue for Falcons. Think about the number of finals where we often say half the team looks stone-faced. It was only ever really Solotov and Likafak who were doing any kind of speaking. At times, Likafak even very clearly showed the whole world he was the only one really saying anything. And there, I think, again, is a bit of the problem. People are saying things like, okay, there's a player here, there's a player there, but no one's coming up with, okay, here's what we need to do about it. And dare I say, that feels like a comment more towards Likafak. He's the IGL. He's got to grab these rounds by the scruff of the neck and say, right, guys, here's what we're going to do. You go do that, I go do this, and bam, 3, 2, 1, off we go. Let's see if it improves here in round 9.
Well, it's, you know, I'll say what I've said, you know, before. I genuinely think Falcons are, ability-wise, one of the best in the world, there's no question. But I think they do struggle sometimes when put under pressure. That is the reality. We've seen them, you know, 3 second places in a year is an amazing achievement. I've said that. There's, you know, not many teams get to second place, you know, let alone 3 times in a year. But the fact that they're having that problem, getting it across the line and getting one of those wins, it says that same thing. And that is when the pressure's really on, when it's backs to the wall, whether that's in one map or in the tournament or whatever else, this team sometimes struggles to find a way, and that is one of their weaknesses. And right now, Shopify Rebellion are taking full advantage of that and are just really piling that pressure onto them and are just not giving them any space to breathe. And it's great from the North American side. They know exactly how to deal with this Falcons team.
They do. Let's see if Falcons can also beat themselves as well as the opponent in front of them, because for Shopify, as you say, looking pretty cozy to start things off. Users getting in and getting rid of Spoit. Thought he'd gone down in the process, but no. Stays standing on a slither of HP. Not at all bad to get the entry onto the player that was playing on the Scoffbox, of course, looking to dance around the map, be a little bit of a nuisance. They've still got to worry about things like those F-Nats coming out from Ambi, and of course, the player we're watching now, Canadian on that Clash. But they've got a lot of great tools here to get the job done. The Sens and the Blitz being the 2 that I look at as their primary ways through this round.
Utility being cleared out, just taking a smidge of damage as he runs across the boogie drone there, but that won't matter too much to Likafak. Just trying to work these verticals. Quite a difficult area to get pressure into his kitchen because there's not really any vertical angles that see it. You can, if you lie prone in connector and look through the floor in the corridor, you can kind of just get, you know, to that front counter area. But if you're over by the window as a defender, you are completely safe from above. Here goes the Shield, looking to get in aggressively and take a little bit of ground to enable them to start pushing towards that side, but the Clash is there. Canadian right position, right time once again, really leading from the front in this one. Great performance from him in a lot of ways, and again Shopify Rebellion just rebuffing that initial attempt from Falcons.
I mean, this is good because they're peeling apart the backside here while Clash is keeping the front side isolated away. Like, Canadian is the one who's stopping the Shield being able to move forward. But they can't risk charging at him because the Shield is knocked away as soon as you step on forward. But he's the one with the diffuser. They've got to win fights elsewhere, Tim. User's getting himself picked back up. Likafak also dangerously low. Rexon boxed into a corner, and Canadian is so low on HP, Tim. We've only got 10 seconds to go. They've got to make their move. 2 kills come on through. Shaiko into one more. Breeday's down on the deck, but they haven't got enough time anymore, Tim. They're going to hold on. Shopify have kept them at bay, and Falcons cannot get it over the line. The Rebellion continues its uprising.
It is another great round from the North American side there. You picked up on it during that, Des. Canadian just holding them at bay and understanding that we don't need to panic that we're losing players elsewhere because this is the tip of the spear. This is how they are going to play the objective and get the diffuser down. So at least, so long as at least 2 of my guys can stay alive behind me, I can just hold on to this area. And that's exactly what they did. 3 versus 5, wasted an inordinate amount of time. Falcons were unable to get in and get the kills they needed to open up the defense. Yes, they got a couple of kills, but it wasn't the ones that they needed. It wasn't those key critical players. I picked up on that back kitchen position. We saw users in there. They couldn't deal with him from above. They tried to deal with him from the window, but they couldn't. And it stopped them being able to put that backside pressure on anymore. Really well played from Shopify Rebellion. Get themselves onto 6-3. I'm not saying it's all done, but they go back up to the top floor, and I think we could be calling this one a quick 7-3 if Falcons are not very, very careful.
Certainly how it feels like it's going, Tim, and that's my concern. Yeah, I spoke about Falcons and how sometimes they can be a little bit laboured in their attacks. I think it's just giving Shopify Rebellion all the time in the world to figure out, okay, here's where they're pushing from. Here's what we've got to do to be able to respond to that. They've just been a bit more quick on their feet than what we've seen coming out of Falcons, and as mentioned, Rebellion, great spot to be in now. You've got 3 bites of the cherry here. You've only got to be right once. Falcons cannot afford to be wrong a single time or everything falls away from them. It is only their opening match, of course, and we heard them before the game. You know, actually it was Super that was saying it. You know, tough first matchup to draw here as well for both teams. I'm sure it'd be fun either way. But both teams knew they were coming up against 2 teams here potentially who are looking to be a top 4 team, if not potentially making it on to the final.
Entry kill is going to be just as important once again. Currently it's 5-4 on the entry to Falcons, so barely winning that battle, but it doesn't tell the whole picture, does it, the numbers, because all 4 out of their 5 entries came round 1-4, so it has been a big period of supremacy for Shopify Rebellion. Falcons were able to get the entry in the last round. Can they do it again here? They're going to have to on the attack. The drones are in there. They're getting the intel. To be honest, I don't think they really need it that much. We kind of know what to expect from this side. You know where the pressure's going to be, where the players are going to be. You know that the army is going to be hiding in catwalk somewhere. As it is, they played quite aggressively there of the NA side, getting themselves right down to the bottom of stairs, and they've been punished. Spoit taken out. Shako finds Ambi, and it feels like Shopify Rebellion might have just come out a little bit strong here. There's a little bit aggressive on the defense, and they're losing bodies for it.
Well, don't cry chickens just yet, Tim. They've still got Surf able to rain these folks on down and get a couple of kills, maybe himself, but no, Leaky Fat from below takes out into the 1v1 and comes out on top. It's still looking pretty good for them, though, on the side of Falcons. 4v2 and still half the round to work with, Tim.
Yeah, plenty of time for Falcons here. They don't need to be rushing anything. The important thing is that they don't give themselves away to these 2 remaining players, because if Rexon or Surf are able to pick up a cheap, easy kill here and it goes to 2v3, it becomes a lot more winnable. Good use of utility to prevent that track coming through from the Deimos. Don't give Shako his advantage that he's craving. He's going to just have to maintain his position outside of IT for the time being. Falcons need to start thinking about how they get in and how they start pressuring these remaining defenders.
At this point, they're trying their very best to try and win back any kind of control. They get at least 1, win a second as well. This could be on for the ace here, Tim. Rexon has really got to do it all in dramatic fashion. This could be a great way to crown that first game here in Munich.
Just going to hold his position, knowing that that wall is open, and they might just give him the opportunity here. We can see the movement. He steps away just as Leakafat was going to peek his head in. Being on low health, it won't take much. Rexon holds them at bay, but no! Leakafat is able to pre-fire the spot, and he keeps Falcons fighting for another round.
Just calm the music, guys. It's not over yet. I know it looked like his name was going up in lights there, because Rexon, again, an ace to close out the game would have been beautiful. The Falcons do hold on, manage to win out the 1 versus 1. And I will touch back on it as well. The craziness that happened inside the garage itself was a matter of pixels there between whether or not it worked out for Falcons or whether it completely crumbled before them. Yeah, we had players pushing in underneath. We had players on catwalks shooting on down. We had players on garage door. We had this strange 1v1 that broke out as well. Just overall a little bit of calamity at the start. The Falcons came out on top of. So whilst, yes, they've got the round on the board, I wouldn't quite say it was in the fashion or with the cleanliness that maybe they would have hoped for. We'll see everyone on the downstairs, because last time around things did not look quite so pretty.
We see the problem with banning against Shako. Of course, a couple of rounds ago, Nomad was taken out, so we've seen him move on to the Deimos consistently since. Going to be using that operator again, and we know how lethal he can be, so keep an eye on him there. Certainly one that can turn the tide here for him.
10 seconds remaining.
Get Falcons back into this. It is going to take 2 more rounds though, and Shopify Rebellion take us back down to that top floor. Back down to the top floor, back down to the basement. And
it's one of them art pieces where it's like, it doesn't make sense when you try and perceive it.
I'm just operating on a higher level, Des.
What level's that, Tim?
It's back down on the top floor.
Oh, God.
You serve them up, I'll just keep knocking them out of the park.
It'll be a long week.
It could be. Right, I'm just looking at the positions of Shopify Rebellion here. We've got Spoit up on the top floor, and then Surf and Ambit on that mid floor, being joined by Rexon as well. So much like we saw from Falcons, there is a whole map presence here from the North American side. They're wanting to burn time from Falcons, force them to chase them around. However, got to be careful with that. When you've got Shaco playing on a Deimos, giving him something to go and chase, it's not always the best idea. Let's see how that works out.
Sure. Again, it's the fact that we've got both of those in combo though, right? I spoke about it a bit throughout the half. The Dokkaebi and the Demos has been a staple of Falcons. It's often why we've seen, and I'm sure it's not the only reason why, of course. It's also because he's really damn good with the operator, but often why a Deimos is target banned away against Shaco. Now, they've got it available. They've also got a shield that they can use to push forward and take ground based on what they find with those Dokkaebi calls coming on through. 3 of those immediately turned off, so sorry, 2 turned off very, very quickly. The others are still ringing out here, which should give Falcons a little bit of space to step on forward. But Rebellion, well, for most part, Tim, they have hung on. They've still got a couple of players up on this first floor, still looking to waste time as we hit that halfway mark of the round.
Shaco doing some work from the hatch up above, just taking out those Animus doors, maybe clearing a path for future use. Leak of Fact manages to pick up Ambi. Falcons find themselves in the middle of a resurgence here. Can they continue?
Ooh,
no. Spoit manages to put the stoppers on, hits a little bit of the brakes,
oh, no.
takes out Leak of Fact and gets himself back up to the top floor. But there comes that Deimos track that I was expecting. Shaco's on the hunt.
He wants him and he's chasing him like no tomorrow. He sees the shadow as well, which is certainly not going to help, but he's got to get up nice and close here. A nade over the top to force him out wide. Sure enough, beautiful from Shaco. Get back in the ones tournaments, I'm afraid, Spoit, because Shaco has had your number there.
Absolutely great example of the use of Deimos there, how he's powerful, why he's powerful, and how to use him. Great stuff from Shaco. Takes down Spoit and leaves Falcons now 4 versus 3, but 35 seconds left on the clock. They do have Breeder inside of Animus with Diffuser in hand, but they're now coming up against more of that utility from Shopify Rebellion. We're hearing the Toxic Babe canisters go out. Surf has one more, but takes a lot of damage. He doesn't want to see that go down in pocket. It will go now, but it's in the wrong place. As Breeder's got into position, he's putting the diffuser down successfully, and now Falcons can fall back, and it's time for Shopify Rebellion to try and fight back.
And Shaco going to be an absolute nuisance here inside of Anima, and they've absolutely deleted the Tim. Almost the reverse of what we saw coming out of about Shopify Rebellion earlier on in the game. Was the plant going down, coming off the plant itself as a shield player and picking up a couple of kills. Falcons drawing us back within striking distance, 1 round away from sending us to overtime. I know Medics is already wanting to die here in that.
And we're going to have a timeout called from Shopify Rebellion.
Real quick, remember, if you're feeling anxious, if you have anxiety, feel any pressure, because we're trying to close it out. Deep breaths, relax, right? Keep playing the same. For this last site, do we want to go kitchen? Because last time that was a clutch and we lost her. I feel like we should go to command and just not do the rafter.
Okay.
Right? They're doing split stuff on rafter. Just be aware of that. If they have the buck under, try to play the vert. We handled it fine the first time. Biggest thing is communicating and talking about what we're fighting and where we're vulnerable, okay?
Okay.
Remember, guys, the score is irrelevant here. It's on us to just relax and play how we've been playing most of this match, okay? For that, let's go, guys.
Ready? Let's do it. I'm actually going to do Valk. I can throw a cam. I can throw
Which
cams.
command?
What I love is that both coaches have said the same thing.
Really interesting, though, to hear that element addressed of, you know, let's not worry too much about the strategy side of things. There was a little bit of that in there, but actually, you know, coaches addressing that element of getting this over the line. It's something that we talk about a lot as commentators, obviously. And, you know, we talk about teams' ability to clinch games. I've mentioned it for FALCONS here, that when the pressure's on and they've got to get that last, you know, little bit, whether it's games or tournaments, sometimes they don't do it fantastically well. And to hear coaches addressing that's really interesting.
What I love is, like, we walk around, obviously, we have the pleasure of being literally they're right behind us, the players. That's why sometimes you hear through the mic teams like SSG screaming the house down, right? We have that pleasure of being able to speak to players in between games and as we're getting breakfast or dinner or whatever. You just bump into people around the hotel, for example. And so many will talk about one round at a time. Like, it's not about the score at the top of the screen, as you just heard Super say there. It literally is. Every round is an isolated unit. There is no currency that carries across rounds. There is no utility that carries across rounds. Every single round is its own isolated unit of play. No influence the previous round, so why even think about what's happened before, what's coming after? One round at a time.
It's such a, you know, the mentality side of it, of esports, of any sport, is so fascinating because you're, you know, Super's absolutely right in what he's saying. You know, this round is no different to any of the other rounds you've won, but the ability to actually find that place in your mind as a player is what separates good from great.
Spoit was searching for it.
Yeah,
I respect it. He was sat there, eyes
absolutely,
closed,
that's
taking
what you've
that
got
deep
to do.
breath as well. Because, as we mentioned at the very start of this game, he was dragging his team through those first 2 or 3 rounds. A couple of kills apiece in each one, looking really, really good. Been a bit quieter as the game has worn on, and that's certainly not a way to get any inspiration going, I'm afraid. Canadian falling offline here as Shaiko gets the entry. He has warmed up.
I will try and find a positive for Shopify Rebellion. If you're going to lose anybody, losing Canadian on Valkyrie is probably not the end of the world. Your IGL now, I always say Valkyrie deaths, it kind of feels like half a death because they know exactly where their cams are. They know exactly what the intention of those cams is, and they're straight on them looking, you know, so already you've got a player with intimate knowledge of that intel game, getting straight onto them and feeding that into their team. On top of that, it's now your IGL as well. He can be watching everything going on and just now commanding and just trying to push his team forward, trying to, you know, shape the performance through this round. So not the end of the world, but still a good start for FALCONS.
Still got the IQ on side, of course, the respect being shown to be able to go and pick those out, but you can see Canadian still flicking through it. All 3 cameras are actually still up here as well. One in warehouse, one in storage, one off towards servers. So they've got all the information they need for him to be able to do, like you say, the job that he needs to. Uses up nice and close. Him, not Brede here, but I'm running around with the shield instead. Right up nice and close, but of course that reinforcement has now gone off. Will mean they'll be able to get this wall opened up. There's no mute jammer on the wall, for example, to slow them down. So they can start getting themselves set up, but we're coming towards the last 60 seconds or so, Tim. And let's not forget how Shopify Rebellion got stuck in this exact same spot back in round 1.
This is a little bit one-sided from FALCONS here. It's all Catwalk and IT. They don't have any pressure blue. They don't have any pressure connector. They do have Leak Effect now moving underneath on the book to try and get something else for Shopify Rebellion to think about, but it could be problematic. Users is actually having to relocate on the Monty as well to pressure blue, but he's low health. This is not going to be easy. FALCONS might have just left it too little too late, Des.
He's on 1 HP. It's him a single bullet. You can literally whisper at him and he'll fall over at this point. It's not looking good. Ambi getting a very late trade back onto Shaiko, but it brings us into a 4v4. Brede starting to equalize things out. That backstab is going to do nothing. Well read on towards Leaky Fack. It's a 3v3, but the clock waits for no one.
Usus is desperately trying to find some way in here, but somebody has to carve a path for him because he has to be careful on such low health. It's going to take very little. Solotov is the one to do it. He picks up the kill onto Ambi, Brede onto Rexon. I think they might just do this. Usus gets in to extend the clock. We're going to overtime, Dennis.
And that is how a Munich Major needs to get underway. Tack timeout is normally a positive thing for top teams. They'll turn it around in the next round, and then it's the battle back and forth of wills. But you can already see here, Rebellion looking like their spirits have been crushed. The pitchforks have been lowered. And FALCONS, those fangs are starting to look mighty sharp, Tim. Overtime, they start on the attack. Shopify Rebellion are on the defense. Do we see more of the same?
Well, I've just had to take my cardigan back off, Des, because
nice and warm.
Foolish me thought, yeah, I really like my big.
You've had that on since about round 9.
Heavy knit, you know. I really like the look of that. I'm going to wear that on.
Well, now the photographer's walked in, so you've got to put it back on again.
Didn't think about the fact that I was under studio light, so I was getting kind of hot. Took it off, and I was like, no, that's good. And then, yeah, popped it back on. This is going to be done pretty soon, right? Right.
It's
and here we are in overtime. I've had to peel it off again because it still surprised nobody that I'm quite an energetic caster. And yeah, it's getting pretty warm in here.
No, what?
It's getting pretty warm.
I'd like to dispute that claim. Tim, an energetic caster. My ears hurt. I've had to turn the mic down twice so far.
10 seconds.
It might have to be a third
I
time
don't
in a minute
believe
as well. I think
I deafened you a long time ago.
So you're still hearing me? You're just guessing what I'm going to say. Is the synergy that high? You know what I'm going to comment on?
It truly is.
Like then. All right then, we're kicking things off by the looks of it on the downstairs, which is just where we've generally seen more success with defenders rather than the attackers overall. A lot of shield success down there in Italy, Tim, and guess what Users is running yet again in this round? It's going to be that shield, but the Dokkaebi and the Deimos are back on side again. It's a limited success last time, but we of course got to see that wonderful 1v1 pursuit of Shaiko on towards Spoit. Maybe we get to see it yet again.
The big turnaround on the entry continued as well. First 4 rounds, FALCONS. Next 4 rounds were Shopify Rebellion. The last 4 rounds were FALCONS. It has bounced back and forward, and they were able to use that to their advantage to get those last 3 rounds and take us now into the extras. I feel like FALCONS come in here with a little bit of an advantage, just having that momentum, but they start on the attack, which they did have that wobble with, that struggle to get rounds to begin with. Shopify Rebellion able to change up the site. They've gone down to the basement, and right now they haven't lost anybody, so far so good.
I'm loving how many times I've seen you take that jacket on and off.
So hard.
So, as you guys might well see on social media, we have breaking the fourth wall a bit. Photographer's do come around and take photos of all stuff, and obviously as casters, you like to have your full jacket on or whatever. Tim's actually taken it off, put it back on 10 seconds later as the photographer walked in, and as he started casting a second ago, started unzipping himself again. I was like, you poor sod. Your head's nice and shiny at least. Maybe I can read my future in that.
It's my own fault for wearing a heavy knit.
I mean, it is really cold in Munich, to be fair. I didn't bring a coat. I made that mistake yesterday, traveling in t-shirt and joggers, and got off the plane. It was like 3 degrees outside. I was like, I've made a terrible decision.
Dread mine on.
Vile.
Okay, then we've got Users is again going to be the push here on the Monty. He's getting himself down in towards EXO, I think, at the moment, and looking to move on in, but they haven't dealt with the defenders up above, and Shopify Rebellion were able to use Solus fantastically well. They used the shotgun and just, able to blast through that floor and create that, difficulty for that diffuser to go down, but Users has now moved in, is starting to get aggressive. Beautiful kill onto Rex, and great start for FALCONS.
I love how they've tried to impede them a little bit as well, making use of the castle walls. They've just kind of ignored it and gone round it, Tim. What's the bother? Plant going down here with the feet that no Users comes off. Doesn't want to stick it there, knows that more than likely than not he's going to go down, so instead gets back up, puts the shield up, reconfigures himself a little bit, and now they're looking to go for the plant going down again. Shopify Rebellion have only got Ambi left as Leakyfact hits his second in the round, a 5 versus 1. FALCONS, the turnaround is looking spectacular, because I don't see this round going the way of Shopify Rebellion, which means match point to FALCONS.
Yeah, and the big problem for the North American side now is that they face FALCONS on the defense. I've spoken at length about FALCONS on the defense of Nighthaven Labs during this matchup. Historically, 80% win rate for them.
I'm not doing it, medics, I'm sorry. So I joked before that if it was 6-7, I'd stand here going 6-7, 6-7, 6-7, 6-7.
Well, you've done it now.
Exactly. But I was explaining the joke, and therefore I haven't done it, and therefore it's okay. It's like meta-explaining what would have happened. The thing is, I actually had no idea what that was until about 7 days ago. When I had to Google it, and I was like, the thing is, we all look at it because we're a bit older and think that's so stupid. Like, that's a joke about literally nothing. But when you think about the memes when they first started appearing on social media, they were largely about nothing as well. They're just, it's brain rot, it's stupid stuff, and that's exactly what 6-7 is. But it's also a scoreline, Tim. Let's not talk about that before my brain does anything fall out my ears. It's 6-7. We've got to see Shopify. I can't stop saying it. It's 7-6, okay? We're starting that one. That's the new one for the major. It's 7-6. Shopify Rebellion have got work to do, Tim. They've got to attack into this top floor, and where I worry here is for FALCONS, that has been a very successful site for them. They've looked very comfortable defending on the top floor. I said it earlier on, Rebellion, they look pretty good at playing the PvE part of the game. The first 90 seconds, they're all right. When it comes to executing, FALCONS have looked very unbothered.
10 seconds to insertion.
Yeah, that's the big thing they're going to have to change. They go up to the top floor. If I look back to the first site, they didn't win this one. It was the one site that FALCONS were 100% on. They were able to lock it down twice. If we remember what's happened previously with Shopify Rebellion was they got that catwalk control in the first round, 40 seconds left to go, decided, nope, this isn't working, had to rotate elsewhere. I think it was pretty much the same story for the second time they attacked it as well, was that late rotate to say, no, we don't have this, we're going to have to push somewhere else. And again, it just comes down to that you haven't, displaced the utility there. You haven't taken control of those areas. You haven't softened up the path that you're trying to walk to victory. And it just didn't pay off for them. So will we see this one going all the way to 15, or are Falcons able to lock it down here and now?
I would say they managed to lock it down, Tim, for all the reasons that I explained earlier on. I just think they look a bit too comfortable upstairs. So we've got to see Rebellion surprise us a bit, bring something a little bit new, a bit fresh to the scene. Can they show something that's going to upset Falcons? Again, I don't think so, but I ain't the one playing in the server. I'm not the ones with the ideas. That's why I'm paid here to cast, and they're paid to play.
Going to see Ambi trying to use Buck to the same sort of impact that we've seen time and again from Leakerpack on the attack. It is those kind of comparisons where you've got to be able to deliver the same or better if you want to come away with those results. We see the nade go in, that's going to take away the mute jammer, and we're going to see that wall breach. Spoit gets his angle in towards site, so can start now increasing that pressure on Falcons a little bit, but at the moment they don't look too worried inside of sight.
They never are, Tim. That's the thing. They're very happy to just soak up the pressure, step back, take new positions. There's no nasty surprises where a wall bursts open and a player suddenly dies, because it has been a bit slower from Shopify Rebellion. It hasn't quite had the pace that we've seen in a couple of their attacks. They've still got keeper barriers around everywhere, and now they're losing players forward as well. A 4 versus 4. How does this go in the last 60 seconds?
This is better, though. They've managed to take down the ward, and it might just give Shopify Rebellion a little bit of space, but Canadian dropping is not ideal. That's your Capitai. That's some important utility goes with him. They do still have Surf, but he's got no Candelas left. I don't know where the space comes from here. Breeder manages to take him down. Falcons surely now on the path to getting that first victory locked in. They are 4 versus 2 effectively. With Spoit down, I think he's going to be collected here, though. That's a big play. That's a bold move. Get him back on his feet. 30 seconds. This is still doable.
This is the important part, though, Tim. They've given themselves time to work with. It's not like it was a last 15-second push where it's all gone wrong. They've left themselves enough to course correct. This backstab coming in through Aqua is the main one. 2 Rebellion players stepping on forward because Solotov, he's been the final boss, Tim, and he remains the final boss. 2 kills here, closes things out. Rexon can only look on as their opening gambit here in Munich is going to find themselves falling away. A 4 versus 1 for Falcons as the clock runs on down. They're not going to take us all the way to 15, but this one is going to be done. Falcons take the win over Shopify Rebellion.
Great performance there. I think from both sides, it's fair to say we knew this was going to be a heavyweight matchup coming into it, and they have both delivered into overtime. Solotov and Shaiko, 30 kills between the two of them, by the way.
Shock horror, right? Brilliant performance from them, and I mentioned Spoit earlier on, started off a bit hot, slipped away. We saw other players, Rexon really pushing himself up there, but unfortunately just not enough to fight their way through. But of course it's not all over for them, Tim. Still plenty more to go, still plenty more chances to course correct, but for me at least, really enjoyed that as an opening game. Both teams showing a lot of capability, a lot of adaptation, but it was the EU side that walk away on top.
Yeah, and I think other teams are going to struggle to play against either of those, in all honesty. I don't think Shopify Rebellion need to worry about it. You know, they've taken an overtime loss to a team that will very possibly go on to a finalist position. You know, they're definitely one of the favourites for the tournament, so nothing wrong there. They've put up a great performance, and Falcons have come in, and what I like from Falcons about that win is they've answered that question a little bit for me. I said that they crumble with the pressure sometimes, and we saw that wobble in the middle, but then they've dug in and got it done.
But is there a lot of pressure in the first game? Because we've seen them have
I think it
runs.
doesn't matter about like the scale of the outcome sometimes. It's just when they are put under pressure. Sometimes it goes quiet and we see what happened there. But they dug deep and got it done, and that's really important for them.
And also seeing Julio step in, of course, and say, it's quiet, boys. Like, the things that you're talking about are superficial. We're saying there's a player there, cool, but what are we doing with that information? Who's making the call on where we go? And we said at the time it felt like a call towards League. In fact, he was the one sat there nodding and going, yep, as in, I'm hearing the feedback, it's at me. I know you're addressing the team, but it's my responsibility as the IGL, and they've shown enough there to get themselves through, which is the important part. Shopify Rebellion, I wouldn't be too worried.
No,
I thought they looked pretty good.
They look good.
First game shakes can happen sometimes as well. Like, again, Spoit started strong, slipped off as the game went by. That's recoverable. They'll still play fine going into future games, of course, assuming they don't get the death from when they come up against bigger and bigger teams. It should technically get easy with the way this works out, but there are just no guarantees. There's no easy game when you've got the best 16 teams in the world here. Look at FaZe earlier against D+. Like, who had that on the bingo card? cards or in the pick'ems, I guarantee you, almost no one.
This is it. I mean, for anybody who doesn't, you know quite how the format works, losers will play losers, winners play winners. So that's what will be up for Shopify Rebellion in the next round.
And you speak about winners, well, Maria stood by with one of them right now. So Maria, over to you with Solotov.
Yeah, that was a tough game, and I want to know, when the pressure is too high, what is the thing that helps you to push through the game and get the win?
I mean, it's the first game of the major, so I think we didn't, like, of course, everyone's a bit, like, nervous because it's the first game. But after we were, like, 3-6 down and we trolled a bit, so, like, we had nothing to lose, basically. And we just played our game and just won. Our game plan was really good, I think. We trolled some rounds. After that one, we just woke up and won the game, so well played by them as well.
Okay, and at some point, Shopify Rebellion was really setting the pace of the game. So how were you guys communicating to change that?
I mean, we were like really stalling out. Like when we had the man advantage, it was like a 5v3, 5v4 rounds, and we just like got surprised on the defense. They pushed fast late round. But on our attack side, like I think the clash was like we were struggling a bit on clash, so we just banned it and we won 5 attack rounds in a row. So that's it.
Also, why the LOL in the chat?
Because he was just saving KD for no reason. Match point, try to win a round.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Let's go for a break.
Yeah. Also, I want to talk to. I want to shout out to the devs, and we just want them to save Siege because the current state of the game is completely unplayable. So we just want them to do something about it, like for everyone. The game is completely unplayable right now.
Thank you, Solotov. And right now, let's go for a break. We'll be right back.